Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our fall virtual cooking class. My name is Dakota, and I have the pleasure of working for the CSU Alumni Association, and I'm so glad that you all have joined us this evening. I'd like to take just a quick moment to thank all of the CSU Alumni Association members who might be out there watching with us this evening. It makes events like this possible, and we're super grateful for each of you. To learn more about membership, see our upcoming events calendar, and stay connected with all things CSU alumni, our CSU Alumni mobile app is your best resource. It's available for iPhone and Android users just by searching CSU Alumni in your app store. I'll also put some more information in the comment section for you shortly. If you have any questions during the class, please go ahead and submit those in the comment section, and we'll be sure to jump in and answer those throughout. The recording and the resources from today's class will be sent to you via email within the next week or so, and will be available on our YouTube channel as well. Finally, later on in the event, I'll be sharing a survey link in the comments section. If you could please take a moment to fill that out, your feedback is greatly appreciated. Okay, that is all from me. I'm now going to turn things over to our instructors for the evening.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. My name is Viridiana Gonzalez, but you can call me Viri. I am the graduate teaching assistant for the Kendall Reagan Nutrition Center, and I'm also a registered dietitian. I am a first-year graduate student here at CSU, studying food nutrition and with a specialization in metabolism and biochemistry. Today I have Sydney and Annie. I'm going to let them do also brief introductions about themselves, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the class.
Hi, my name is Sydney Holmes, and I am a second-year master's student and in the nutrition department here, and one of my main interests is in community nutrition.
Hi, I'm Annie. I'm a first-year nutrition master's student, and my interest is in eating disorders and clinical nutrition.
Awesome. So I'm just going to do a quick recap on what tonight's going to look like. So you all should have received your packet that has all of the things that you should have had prepared before, all the food you're going to need, and all the equipment that we're going to be using tonight. Today we're going to make 4 recipes. We're going to start out with the ratatouille. We're going to continue with the pecan crusted pork with apple chutney. We're then going to go ahead and start the honey ginger poached pears. And then lastly, we're going to do the goat cheese polenta. Before we move forward, I do want to go ahead and just make sure to remind you of some food safety guidelines. Let's just make sure to wash our hands. We already went ahead and did that already. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start out with the safe knife demonstration to make sure that we're all properly using our knives here and also at home. I'm just going to quickly grab and show you some things I want to focus on. So this is what you call your chef's knife. When you go ahead and use one of these, you want to go ahead and make sure that your grip is tight. And I'm going to go ahead and show you where. You want your thumb to be here on the side, gripping. You want to have a good grip here. So thumb to the side and then grip over where you grab your knife. When you grab anything that you might be cutting, vegetable, fruits, later we're going to be doing ginger, different things that you have at home. You want to go ahead and do some type of like claw effect to your hand, and you want to grab your vegetable where it makes a little bit of like a little bridge here with your knuckle. And then when you slide down, you just want to make sure to slide down where the knife kind of just falls underneath and then push out. This will avoid for you to kind of like grab your fingers. When you grab it, just like sometimes you tend to grab like this. It just makes it easier for us to get hurt. But if you do that kind of barrier here, it just slides down, and then you want to push away from your body. So tonight I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Sydney. As I said, we're going to go ahead and get started with the ratatouille. This is going to take approximately 15 to 20 minutes for us to go through the beginning stages of this recipe, and then we'll move on to the next part.
All right. Hi, everyone. So first of all, I want to talk about some of the benefits of eating so many vegetables. This dish has a lot of different vegetables, which is really great to include in your diet. Including vegetables in your diet can help reduce your risk of certain diseases, such as high blood pressure, cholesterol levels, and heart disease, and also vegetables can have vitamin A and vitamin C, which are also very healthy for you. So I guess I'll get started with what you're going to need. So you'll want to make sure that you have the dish that you're going to cook your veggies in, and a knife, a cutting board. I would, if you have maybe a trash can or a bowl to put your scraps in, I find that to be really handy. The bowl that you'll be mixing everything in, I have it kind of behind here actually. And all of your ingredients. I have eggplant. You know, if you don't have some of these ingredients, you know, it's not the end of the world. You can change things out. For example, we don't have yellow squash today, so we have a yellow bell pepper instead. So I have eggplant, zucchini, bell pepper, green and yellow, tomato, and onion. And then finally, you'll want aluminum foil to put on your dish. And then for kind of the seasonings, you'll want black pepper, garlic powder, salt, thyme, and olive oil. So I'm going to get started. So I have prepped some stuff already, but basically we're just going to do a lot of cutting of vegetables right now. And some things I would keep in mind is to make sure the instructions say to cut about them in a 1/4 inch. So that would be really handy, so they all kind of cook at the same time. And also aesthetic wise, it will be nice to have them all kind of the same width. And then also like kind of width wise, like I will show you, I've just cut this this tomato. It's very skinny, but also kind of like you want everything to be kind of in the same size that way too. So for example, I have some bell pepper that I have sliced, and you'll want to make sure that you cut probably, depending on your dish and depending on all of your veggies, you could cut them in half to make sure that they are more closely aligned with like the zucchini or tomato and stuff like that. So probably do that really quick. All right. And I probably should have done this first, but how to cut a bell pepper. So I have the yellow bell pepper here, and I will cut at the top with kind of a claw. So hopefully you can see this here. So claw and slice in half here. This is a little hard, but okay. And so then you have 2 halves. I then will take this half, and I will want to take the seeds out here. And then also the membranes. So those are the little white bits in the middle. So you want to take that out too. And bell peppers are best when they're cut kind of on the inside instead of on the skin. The skin can be really tough, and so it's kind of hard to cut that way. So I would flip them over like this, and then with a bear claw and correct knife holding position, just cut here and cut about 1/4 of an inch width. And for the bell pepper, it says to do about half of a bell pepper. I already have half of a green bell pepper cut, and I kind of wanted to just use the bell pepper for color also, so I'll do half of a 1/4 of a yellow and 1/4 of the green. So that will be a half. Okay. over here. And I'm going to go through all of these veggies, but again, if you don't have some of these, it's not you know, the end of the world. Like I said with the yellow squash, and actually kind of a little bit of about ratatouille. Lots of different cultures have different versions of it that are kind of maybe came from ratatouille originally, that was in France, but like just kind of a little story. I was making this earlier and I heated some up for my boyfriend, and he's actually Egyptian, and he like realized that he knew this dish, but he knew it by a different name, and they added potatoes and a little bit of meat to it, but it was really just very similar. And I thought that was really cool to kind of, you know, I had said I'm making ratatouille. He didn't know what that was, but then when I made it, he knew exactly what it was. So that was really interesting. So if you make this once and you think, oh, I might want to add potatoes, or I might want to add something else, you can try that again with something else like that. So, okay. So now I'm going to start putting some of the veggies in here, and then I'll do some more cutting. And here I'm going to cut some tomatoes. So I have sliced the tomatoes in a 1/4 inch slices, but I will probably cut them in half again so that they're kind of closer in size to everything else. But I'm just going to put them back here because they won't go into the bowl until after we've mixed the first round of veggies. So leave your tomatoes to the side. And then I've already cut some zucchini, but basically let me just show you. So I'm just going to cut them in little rounds. So a 1/4 inch slices also. All right, and that's how I would cut zucchini for this recipe. And then also onion is very useful in this recipe, and I would cut those in a 1/4 inch slices like this. All right, and that's how I would do that. So I already have some prepped, but I just wanted to show you. And then the eggplant, which seems to be pretty prominent in all of the ratatouille. And I think that's really ratatouille dishes. I think it's kind of interesting because I think in a lot of people in America probably don't use ratatouille or eggplant very much. And so it's really interesting to have this in a dish. So your recipe calls for a half of a small eggplant. I would say this is a large eggplant, so we're going to use a 1/4 of it. So let me just, I'm going to cut this in half. And then I'm going to cut it in half again like this. So we'll probably use about this much. And then, and kind of going back to what I was talking about with making sure everything's more similar in size, I would cut this in half. If you had a smaller one, it would be nice because it would be like, you could just see kind of the edge when you're kind of layering all of it. But I do worry it's going to be a little bit too long. It will also kind of ruin the look that way. So, but do what you think is best size-wise for the produce that you have. I'm gonna cut in 1/4 inch slices. Okay, and so now that we've cut our veggies, I will probably then start mixing. So continue cutting at your veggies if you are still doing that, but I'm going to start mixing my veggies. So I put some bell pepper in, and remember, we in your recipe, you need to leave out the tomato and the eggplant for just temporarily while we mix everything up, and then we'll add it in after. So I'm gonna grab 1/4 of my yellow onion, put that in there, and about 1/2 of a zucchini. And I'm considering maybe adding a little bit more of the bell pepper for more color. This in half. Yeah. Okay. So I have, let's see, let's make sure. I have zucchini. I have my yellow squash or yellow bell pepper. I have my green bell pepper, my onion, and okay. So that'll be good for now. All right. So what you need to add to this bowl then is to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I have that measured out now. And then I have a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then a teaspoon of garlic powder. Let me just make sure I got all the olive oil out of here. All right. And so now I'm gonna mix with my hands. If that grosses you out, you can use a spoon, but I'm gonna mix my hands with my hands, and make sure you wash your hands first. But I find that mixing with my hands is one of the best ways, just because you can kind of, manipulate the spices that are in there. And if you see, like, one is very dry, you can kind of rub it around on where the olive oil is. And if one of your zucchini got a whole bunch of the garlic powder, then you can kind of move that off. So All right. So that's pretty good for now. And then I'm going to add my eggplant and then my tomato. All right. Tomato. And so from what I understand, the reason why we add the tomato and the eggplant after we've mixed first is that the eggplant seems to absorb a lot of the olive oil. And so then there's none left for the rest of the vegetables. And then the tomatoes are awfully wet. So all right, and so once you think that you've got gotten everything kind of coated really well, then we're going to start assembling the in the dish. So, alrighty, and so ideally you would just alternate, pretty precisely back and forth. Of course, you don't have to be that precise with it. So. And I'm going to do in a circle. Some of you might have more of a rectangular dish, and that works as well. But I'm going to try to do a circular dish. So let's see if I can do that. Probably going to use this to start it off with, and then scoot around. So kind of hold it in place. And I'm just going to alternate back and forth of what I use. So I'll go onion and then the zucchini, eggplant, tomato, bell pepper, onion. Might cut the onion in half. Zucchini. And then after this, the last step will be to put aluminum foil on the top. Or sorry, second to last. That's the very last step. You'll want to then put thyme. So if anyone's ready, you can start putting thyme on your dish. And for time, I'll probably just end here, but I have a little bit left, so I might end up at the end cutting a few more veggies and using the rest of the sauce that's there, and then filling it in the middle. But just to help you guys. I put 5 twigs of the thyme in a bowl here. Just finished that. And then I just add on top here. And then just for the aluminum foil, I will and then just put it in the oven then. Well, thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed making ratatouille with me. And so you're going to put the ratatouille with foil on it in the oven for about 30 minutes. And then we'll come back and we'll take that foil off and let it cook for another 20 to 30 minutes, just depending on how quickly your vegetables, how long it takes for your vegetables to become tender. So.
Okay, so next we're gonna start on our main dish, which is the pecan crusted pork with the apple chutney. So we're gonna focus first on making the pork and then put that into cook while we cook some of the other things. And then we'll come back at the end and make the chutney. So we're gonna start, the oven should already be preheated to 400 with your ratatouille in it. So it's gonna be ready when we need it. We're going to line our baking sheet with parchment paper. I've already done that, but the idea here is just to save us a little bit of effort and cleaning down the road. So once we've got it lined, we're going to start preparing our pork chops. So the first step is to grab your mustard and your egg, and we're going to combine them in a bowl to create kind of a coating for our pork. So I have 2 tablespoons of the mustard. Another substitute can also be Dijon mustard if you don't have mustard powder. Either works just fine. And then you're just going to whisk it until it's fully combined into sort of a paste. Take a few minutes and mix them together. Might be a little bit easier if you did use like a liquid mustard. Once it's all mixed, we're going to set it to the side. We'll come back to it, but we're going to next make our pecan coating. So to do that, we're going to use it to coat our pork chops, but we're going to combine our pecans, our thyme, our salt, our garlic powder, and our pepper in a food processor. We're going to use a blender. If you don't have a food processor, blenders are just fine as well. But we're going to put them all in. So again, we have our pecans, we have our garlic powder, we have our salt, and we have our pepper. And then we need our thyme as well. If you use fresh thyme, just make sure you're just using the leaves. And then we're just going to blend until our pecans are coarsely ground. So now we need a plate. We're going to grab our plate and we're going to take our pecan mixture. And now we prepare the pork chops. So I've got our pork chops right here. We're going to start by coating it in our mixture. Really try to make sure you coat both sides well. It's going to help our pecan mixture stick. Once it's mixed, we're going to, once both sides are coated, we are going to put the pork chop in our pecans and mix it around to cover it completely. And again, you can use your hands. Hands is probably the easiest way, but make sure that you leave enough for your other 3 pork chops. Okay. So we've got our mixture, and an important thing before we get completely done with our pork is to cook the oil as well. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with the oil, and then we'll finish the rest of our pecan coating. But have my skillet here. I'm gonna grab my 2 tablespoons of oil, and just use it to coat the bottom of the pan. The skillet can be turned to about a medium-high temp, so about a 6 or a 7 on this oven will be just fine. So while that heats, we'll finish the other 3 pork chops, and then we'll get them all cooking. Just do the best you can towards the end to get an even coat.
I'm just gonna check to make sure that it's heating.
We're gonna wait about 30 more seconds. Go ahead and clean up your area, wash your hands, and then we will sear our pork chops before we put them on our pan. So by now our oil should be warm. If not, give it a couple more seconds. But our next step is to sear our pork chops. Searing is great because it helps lock in moisture as well as it helps bring out some of the flavor of the meat. So to sear, we're going to put them in the pan. You may have to just do a few at a time if they don't all fit. Looks like ours will probably all fit. And we're going to sear them for about 1 minute to 2 minutes per side. Then we'll flip them. And then once they're seared, we're going to put them on our parchment paper covered baking sheet. If it seems a little slow, you can also turn the heat up on your stovetop. Go ahead and flip them over if you haven't yet. So we've got about a minute, 2 minutes per side, should be seared. So now we're going to take them out of our skillet, put them on our baking pan, and in the oven. They'll go in the oven for about 20 to 30 minutes. So make sure you set a timer. And we want the internal temp to be 145 degrees. So go ahead and set your timers, and we're going to start on the poached pears.
Okay, everyone. So we're going to get started with the honey and ginger poached pears. So I'm going to go and gather my ingredients. You do the same, and we'll be right back. So for the first part of the poached pear recipe, it's going to be broken down into 2 parts. Right now, we're just going to do we will call the poaching of the pear. So for the ingredients that you're going to need the honey, the vanilla, the sherry cooking wine, the cinnamon, ginger, sugar, and then I'll go in and grab water from the back. So you want to put your heavy whipping cream and your semi-sweet chocolate to the side. That's going to be one of the last steps that we're going to do towards the end of the recipe. So we're going to go ahead and kind of skip a step. And first, we're going to go ahead and what we're going to call peel. We're going to peel our pears. But first, I just want to make sure, and just as a reminder, make sure that the pot that you're going to use fits all of the 4 pears in here, because we want it for all the pears to be in there, and we want all the pears to be coated with the water, the sherry one, and everything that we're going to put in there. So grabbing just like a normal potato peeler, you're just going to do the same thing as you were to do with the potato. You're just going to peel the pear. You want to do the same for all 4. It can get a little slippery, so just make sure that you kind of alternate, take your time, so that way you don't accidentally kind of go at it with your finger. And then one thing that I did want to talk about, which, last time that I did this recipe, participants asked me why we were peeling the pear itself. So peeling the pear, we kind of remove that outer coating of the pear, which kind of allows for the pear to soften a little bit faster. So it minimizes the cooking time. And then another thing that it seems a little bit counterintuitive, but I also do want to touch on it, is typically as a dietitian, we would not recommend for you to peel the skin from the pear, as a lot of the nutrients are stored within the skin, as this gives you some of that fiber, micronutrients, and other vitamins and minerals that are essential for just general health. So that's how one should look like. Another recommendation for this recipe is I would recommend that as you're shopping for these pears, if you want to go ahead and do this recipe, I know with Thanksgiving coming along, it's a nice fall festive dessert that you can have at your next family gathering, is try to find pears that are a little bit softer. as these will make them a little sweeter and then easier to peel, and they'll poach a little bit faster. Have 2 down. And then if you have other people at home that are helping you, you can also go ahead and start peeling the ginger in the same format. And it's actually, the ginger is a little bit easier to peel. It's a little faster too, because it's not as slippery and you have more of a grip when you're peeling it. If you also have kids at home, another fun way that you can go ahead and include them and have them help you is you can always have them measure out and portion out all of the other ingredients. Kind of it's a fun way to engage and cook as a family, or start introducing some of those younger kiddos to some of these like fruits and vegetables, specifically pears. It might be a fun way to introduce a child to the specific fruit. As you know, usually, you know, when they're involved in the preparation of their food, they're more likely to want to go ahead and eat it and try it. So I'm done with all of my 4 pears. Now I'm going to continue with my ginger. And same way, you need about, you know, you don't need that big of a ginger piece. Typically you need maybe like, I'm probably going to end up using, I'm not sure if you can see it up top or here to the camera, probably about a fourth of this. And you want to go ahead and mince it. If you're not familiar with what mincing is, it just means try to cut it as small as possible, just so that you can cover more of the surface area with when it's in the pot, and it's just easier for it to combine into the other flavors that will be in the mixture that we make. So this one's a lot faster. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a knife so I can go ahead and mince the ginger. Following that technique that we touched on in the front with my little claw effect here. Perfect. And just try to get some of those small pieces. It doesn't have to be super small, but just try to get it into like a good maybe one. I know saying like millimeters sounds like, what does that mean? But just as small as possible, like tiny, tiny little cubes. Perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and start adding everything to our mixture. And it's up to you whether you want to go ahead and put all the liquid ingredients first and have it boil, or if you want to go ahead and add everything together. I think it's all going to depend on how soft your initial pear is. The ones that I have are pretty soft in general, so that's why I decided to just wait till the end and combine everything together. But if I would have probably had tougher, harder pears, then I would recommend you starting that a lot sooner, so that way when you add your pears, the water is like the mixture is already warm. So you want to go ahead and combine your cooking, your sherry wine, your water, your sugar, cinnamon stick, honey, ginger, and vanilla extract. So there's my 1 cup of water. I'm gonna add my 1/2 cup of sugar. I'm gonna add my minced ginger. Make sure to get all of that out. I'm gonna add my 1 stick of cinnamon broken in half. Grab a tablespoon. I'm gonna add my honey. And the honey is honestly whatever honey you prefer. We're just using regular generic honey. We're gonna add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And lastly, we're going to add the sherry wine. I know on your recipe it says 175 milliliters. For just ease, you can just round up to 3/4 of a cup. That's the equivalent of what that would be. Looking for a cup. And if you have any recommendations on other ways that you use sherry wine, please go ahead and share it with the group, because this is my first time where I use it too with cooking, especially with like a dessert. And I find it to be really unique. So give it a mix. Make sure you combine all of those ingredients in here. Kind of help that sugar dissolve a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and add our poached pears. You want to make sure that your pot has a lid, because you want it for that vapor to create in the mixture and as it's cooking, so that it poaches those. And that is going to be the first part of our poached pears. You're going to let these cook for about 20 minutes, or how I like to put it also, once we're at the 20-minute mark, we'll go ahead and check our pears. We'll go ahead and do what I call like the fork stab test. Poke your pear and see how soft it is. It's also going to be up to you how you like your pears. If you like it a little bit softer, not as soft. So it's going to be a little subjective. But we do want these to at least be in here poaching for about 20 minutes. All right. Now Sydney's going to come back and see where we're at with our ratatouille. Oh, another one. Sorry. Down here.
And so now I'm just going to take the foil out, or foil off the ratatouille. Maybe some of you might try to just take it off in the oven, but I might not do that because you don't want foil on your hands. So I'll just take it out and then I'll put it right back in. nice and steamy now. It's really great. So I'll put it back in. So. And I'll put that in for about another 20 minutes maybe.
All right, guys. So now we're gonna get started on our goat cheese polenta. So kind of nutrition fact about polenta. Great source of protein, great source of fiber, and it also is gluten-free. So it's a good substitute for pasta for those who are gluten-free and maybe would prefer that to like a gluten-free pasta. So the first thing we're gonna do is combine our broth, our milk, our salt, and pepper, pretty much everything but our goat cheese and our basil into our pot, and then we're going to let it boil. Be careful though to watch it really carefully because it likes to boil over. So just make sure that you keep your eye on it. So I've got my 2 cups of broth. My milk. And my salt and pepper and garlic powder. I just mixed them all together before, but go ahead and take some time to put those in now. So we're going to turn the stove to about a 7 to 8 on the stovetop to try to bring it to a boil. Once it's brought to a boil, we're going to add in our polenta, and then we're going to stir it until it thickens up. Try to stir your mixture a little bit just so that it kind of evenly mixes all together. And then we're going to let it boil. Since that's going to take a few minutes to get to a boil, we're going to go ahead and start prepping our apple chutney. So, I'm going to clear out some space for us. And then you need your ingredients for your apple chutney that hopefully you've set aside. If not, take a few minutes now to do so. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut up our apple and our shallot. These will both be part of our apple chutney mixture. So go ahead and cut off both ends of your shallot and then cut it lengthwise down the middle. Just make sure to take the dry parts of the shallot off of the outside, similar to an onion. So now we have two flat surfaces to work with. Make sure you put the flat surface down. You're going to cut the long direction first. This helps because you have fewer pieces to try to hold together, so it tends to be safer for knife safety reasons. And then you're just going to do little cuts just to dice it. If you'd like to cut them finer, that's all right as well. It says to mince it, so that just is a more finely cut dice.
Is it like onion?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So if you can see through your tears, go ahead and start cutting your apple as well. So you can use the same knife simply because they're going into the same dish. But go ahead and cut all four sides. Oh my gosh.
Got it in.
Oh, so cut off the four sides, leaving the core. And we're gonna take a sec to let this shallot. Oh, dude.
You got like
cannot see.
Okay. Oh yeah. Just as okay. Making a comeback.
So now hopefully your shallot has cleared out a little bit. Tends to be a stronger onion, so it can be a little more potent. A trick for the future is if you put a wet paper towel on your cutting board, most of the chemicals from the onion are looking for moisture, so they'll actually stick to the paper towel and not your eyes. Should have done that. But basically, we cut off all four sides of our apple, and now we're going to dice it. These can be a little bit more thickly cut than our shallot, so more of a dice than a mince. It's not turned.
This stovetop tends to be a little weird sometimes. There. Yeah. Now it's heating. I can feel it.
Great. So just make sure that your stovetop is heating. We're going to take a few more minutes to finish cutting our apple, and by then our mixture hopefully will have boiled. Like Sydney was saying earlier, try to make the pieces that you cut relatively equal, so that they all cook equally. So I diced one apple and I already had one diced, so if you need to do the second, go ahead and do that now. So we're going to combine all our ingredients into a saucepan. We're going to wait to start it, though, because it tends to be a little bit quicker to cook than some of our other things. Go ahead and get everything combined into your saucepan, and then set the saucepan to the side. So you should combine your brown sugar, your mustard, your cinnamon, your apples, your shallots, pretty much everything but your goat cheese and your basil into that saucepan, and then go ahead and just set it to the side for now.
Do you want to whisk any?
Sure.
And then we're about 25 minutes on the
If you're like me and you're still waiting, we can check the temperature of our pork now. We may need a few more minutes, so we're going to go ahead and just see. Like you said earlier, the temp for safety for pork is 145 degrees. So hopefully you have a thermometer. If not, we want to check to make sure that the internal pork chop is nice and white, that there's no color left. And a trick for the thermometer, you want to make sure that you're in the middle of your pork chop, but that you're not too close to the pan, because the pan tends to be hotter, so it can make our temperature higher than it actually is. So just make sure you're in the center of the pork chop. So ours are done. Depending on whether yours are or not, you can go ahead and take them out or leave them in for a few more minutes and just check them sporadically. Just watch the pan because it'll be very hot. Our mixture is almost to a boil. It needs a little bit longer. Once it's at a boil, we're going to add our polenta in and pretty much stir it until it is fully thickened to a consistency that you like. Little trick, if it tends to be too thick for your liking, you can add a little bit more milk. Or if it's too thin, you can add a little more polenta, but we want to be careful with the ratios. Our mixture is almost there. So you see it's at a boil, it's starting to bubble. So that indicates to us that we can turn the temp down, and then we're going to slowly add our polenta in while we mix it. And just be careful because as you see, mine is trying to boil over. So reduce your heat. Depends on your stovetop. Probably around 4 to 5 is a good temp here. And we're going to slowly add in our polenta, little by little, as we continuously stir. This helps avoid our polenta from burning by being in the bottom of the pan too long. And it might be a little bit slow if you keep it on 4 or 5. So if it is taking too long, you can turn up the heat. Just make sure that you're continuously stirring it more than you would if it was at a lower temp. We're going to know our polenta is ready when it starts to pull away from the sides of our pot. If your pork chops weren't done, it's been a few more minutes, you can go ahead and check those now.
And then I come over here because I can hear the pears boiling, and a lot of that, like the sugar, it's trying to seep out of the pot. So I'm just going to lower the heat a little bit. We have about 5 minutes left until we go ahead and check them with the fork.
I'm taking mine off the heat just for a second because it got a little bit too hot. So it's starting to bubble over. If it starts to do so, turn your burner down and take it off the heat briefly. You can see it's starting to thicken, so that's a great sign. We want it to pull away from the sides of the pan, however, so you might need to keep stirring just a little bit longer.
Okay, everyone. So while Annie's still stirring that polenta to get it to that right consistency, it's been about 20 minutes since our pears have been poaching. I'm gonna go ahead and look for a fork. And just remember that however soft you want your pear to be, that's probably how much you're gonna want to either poach it a little bit longer for, or you can just take it off the stove top. I'm gonna just stir mine around. So mine are pretty soft. I'm just gonna leave them here for maybe like 10 more minutes, and then I'll officially take them off the stove.
All right, and then I'm going to take out the ratatouille. It's been about the right amount of time, and if you're unsure about yours, you can always also stick it with a fork to see how done it is. So you can see we're getting pretty close here. The next steps are we're going to add in our goat cheese, and then we're also going to serve it up and top it. And if you're done with your oven, make sure to turn it off. Now that we're about there on our polenta, it's probably a good time to start cooking. Chill out. Start cooking our apple chutney. So you're gonna grab that pan that you set aside earlier, and we're gonna start cooking it at about a medium high heat on our stovetop. So maybe around 6 or 7. Just making sure that we are continuing to stir our polenta. I took mine off the heat because it kept bubbling up and burning me. So if you're dealing with the same issue, you can take it off the heat. The pan should be hot enough that it should continue to cook it. I also turned my burner off so it'll cool down a little bit, and we can use that for the last little bit of thickening.
think it was, yeah.
So now we're gonna go ahead and add our 4 ounces of goat cheese. Let's go ahead and open it up. Might be easier to cut it into pieces just so it more evenly distributes a little bit quicker. But that's up to personal preference. So you're putting your 4 ounces in, and then you're going to stir it in until it's pretty much all melted and put into our goat cheese or into our polenta. This will also help thicken it a little bit if it's still thinner than you'd like it to be.
Is it cooling down?
Hmm?
Is it cooling down?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Make sure that you don't forget about your chutney. You may want to give it a couple stirs just so that it doesn't burn on the bottom. The only thing left we have for our polenta will be to top it with our basil leaves. What I did here is I took 4 basil leaves and I just ripped it into pieces about maybe a 1/4 inch wide and about half of the leaves.
Awesome, everybody. So we're almost done. We have a couple more steps to go. Annie will join us here back to finish the apple chutney. She'll kind of just be hanging out. And now we're just going to go ahead and finish off our poached pears. I'm just going to grab a fork again, and I'm just going to go ahead and give them a stab. Mine's are pretty soft. I think now even for yours, it's a pretty good time to take them off the stove if you haven't already done so. Just going to move it to the side. Using another saucepan, you want to put it over the stovetop and then turn it down maybe to like about a 2 with the amount of heat. And then we're going to go ahead and make our chocolate ganache. So for your chocolate ganache, you're going to need 2 things. We're going to need heavy whipping cream and then your semi-sweet chocolate. So 2 ounces is going to be about 1/4 of a cup, 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of chocolate.
By now your chutney should be boiling. Once it's boiling, we're going to turn down the heat to a simmer, so about a low heat or about 2 on the burner, just to let it cook for about 10 more minutes.
And then we're going to go ahead and add the 1/2 cup of the whipping cream. And then you just want to make sure to get all of it in there. You're going to go keep this and maybe turn up your heat a little bit. You want to get it to a simmer. And then after it starts simmering, you're going to go ahead and turn off the stovetop and then add your semi-sweet chocolate. Same as with the polenta, how Annie mentioned, we want to make sure that we're stirring it so that it doesn't burn on the bottom or kind of stick to the sides. While that gets to a simmer, I'm going to go ahead and you can get any plate, or I'm going to use a glass container where I'm going to go ahead and take out my poached pears and lay them out in the front. So I'm going to use it's like a pie crust, like a pie pan is what I'm going to use. Grab some tongs. I had it up first. What happened here? There we go. So I am noticing that my heavy whipping cream is starting to simmer. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off here on the stove top. I'm going to put it to the side. I'm going to put my pears. Sometimes they'll stand. Sometimes they'll just wobble to the side a little bit. There. And then all of the juice that's left of the mixture that we made to poach the pears, you're just going to throw that away. So now that my whipping cream is warm and has simmered already, I'm going to add my semi-sweet chocolate. And then you want to make sure that you keep stirring to combine that heavy whipping cream with the chocolate. And make sure that you go ahead and stir until it's all combined and it's nice and soft. So as you can see, all of these 4 recipes have a lot of different parts to them. So if we go back to the time that we started, it takes about 1.5 hours to 2 hours to complete all of the recipes. I'm going to see if I can get my pears to stand a little bit, but I don't think so. Yeah, they're just going to teeter-totter to the side. So once I have my chocolate and my heavy whipping cream combined, if you can see at the top, you can kind of see it here how it's nice and smooth. I'm going to go ahead and grab a spatula. It's just easier to get it out of the saucepan. And then I'm just going to drizzle it over the pears. Let me see if you can see this. I'm going to put it here. You might be able to see it from the top, from the mirror. And then you just want to drizzle it on top. My drizzle could probably improve a little bit, but you get to decide how much chocolate you want to put on them as well. I've had people save the chocolate and you can just have it on the side. That way each person can put as much as they want. Or you can just do what I'm doing and kind of coat them completely. Perfect. So all that's left is the completion of the apple chutney.
So it's a good time now to check your chutney. What we're looking for basically is just that the apples are soft and that it's just fully integrated as a dish. So stir it a little bit longer, and then you can go ahead and plate it. As you can see, I've plated our 4 pork chops here. They're really good together, so I'm going to put the chutney in the center of the pork chops. So we have our pork chops, and I'm going to dish a little bit of chutney into the center.
If you have any kids at home, you can do the whole spatula, licking of the spatula. If that's something you want to share with them.
And then finally, we're going to dish out our polenta. So go ahead and grab just a tablespoon. And you're going to dish as much as you'd like of that goat cheese polenta. And then you're going to top it with those nicely shredded basil leaves. Put as much basil as you'd like. You can also mix it in with your polenta.
Alrighty, everyone. So we finished all of our 4 recipes. We have the ratatouille, the poached pears, the pecan crusted apple chutney pork, and we have the goat cheese polenta. It's been a pleasure cooking with you all tonight. If you have any questions for any of these recipes, please let us know. And we look forward to hosting the next alumni class. I want to say thank you to Sydney and Annie for being here tonight. And I want to thank all of you as well for joining us. I hope you enjoy. Bye.